Welcome to the Neuroveda podcast for complex health. We feature expert guests who dive into ancient and cutting edge understandings of health and disease. These conversations are about food, lifestyle, and medicine just as much as they are about nature, culture, and politics. I'm Gillian Ehrlich, family nurse practitioner, certified in Ayurveda and functional medicine at our clinic. Neuroveda Health in Seattle, Washington. And I've got an incredible guest today. A dear, dear old friend of mine, Dr. Anjali Brannan, is a 2001 graduate of the acclaimed Ayurvedic Institute's Advanced Studies and Clinical Program, which is Gurukula. She studied with world-renowned Ayurvedic physician Dr. Vasant Lad for 3 years. She's also trained and skilled in somatic trauma resolution, lymph drainage, craniosacral therapy, hands-on brain therapy, fluid articular release for the joints, Arvigo, did I pronounce it correctly? All right, Arvigo, Maya abdominal therapy, polarity therapy, lift, synergy yoga, and dance. Anjali also volunteers as a teacher of heartfulness meditation, whose system she's been practicing since 1994 and teaching since 2000. Anjali has also been the featured guest on several different TV and radio shows on health. Her practice has been part of the University of Cincinnati's alternative medicine rotation for family practice medical residents at the Clinton Memorial Hospital, where medical students would observe her in her work to understand more about complementary medicine. She's also been an Ayurvedic panelist for a master's capstone project at the prestigious Brown University. Since 2001, Anjali has had an active Ayurvedic practice and has been teaching classes in Ayurveda. She's the director of the skilled team at the Ayurveda Natural Health Center in Dayton, Ohio. And she's very funny and she's awesome. Actually, I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you so much, Jillian. Sorry that was such a long bio, but you did a great job reading all those words.
Arvigo, Lift. I mean, we've got a lot to talk about because, girl, you get a lot of certifications.
Well, so do you, and I'm super honored to be here, Jillian. You're the best.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We're so happy. So, our topic today is parenting and trauma. And when I was writing this out, I was like, is it parenting and trauma or trauma and parenting? Because they are like, you cannot escape one whenever you look at the other. Talk to us, like, when you first hear, like, parenting and trauma, those 2 topics, tell me, like, what comes to your mind about how you think about these things and how they are so intricately related?
Well, yeah, definitely the way we've been parented by our own parents can be traumatic, and then that informs our life decisions. So many of the times, if we haven't gotten our own needs met early on, we try to meet them in our life. Same with impulses that may have gotten trapped. We're always trying to renegotiate maybe some need that didn't get completed, whether it's from this life or another life. And that's part of the reason why I do this work called somatic trauma resolution, which is based on Peter Levine's somatic experiencing. But it's a very gentle, non invasive way to help renegotiate our wounds and finish our impulses and meet our needs. And when we can do that inside, we don't have to do it in the real world. So we can beat the crap out of whoever in our mind, track the feeling in our body, and not feel like we have to do it in the real world. There'd be less shootings, more peace when we can allow ourselves to do it in the imaginal realm through this work.
So tell us a little bit about what that work looks like or kind of what does that mean?
So basically, what it would be is I would ask you to track sensation in your body as I ask you different questions. So,
Mm,
first, we would begin by resourcing you.
mm,
So, I might ask you what you enjoy doing, that you feel successful at and empowered by. And so, as you imagine doing that, like maybe for you, it is biking while being on a Zoom call because you're very good at that.
we have done that before.
You're like the queen of multitasking. So, whatever it is, like, let's say it's biking for you, you could imagine biking and then track the feeling in your body as you imagine biking, and your body feels like it got to actually do that. It doesn't know the difference. So, the body's always following the mind. So, in that same way, we'll get your body resourced, nice energy flowing, and then I might mention a potential trauma trigger, maybe you had a brother who bullied you. So I could mention him or your mother. And if you notice a change in sensation, then that means there's still something left to discharge. And we'll track the feeling in your body and watch it. But then we'll go a step further and meet any incomplete needs. So maybe you had a need for your brother to see you, to validate you and not punch you or make fun of you. Or so you would imagine that part of you that didn't get what she needed, you would imagine yourself giving that part what she needs
Mm,
from your own current present adult self, compassionate self. You would imagine giving her what she needed that she didn't get from whoever, and then track the feeling in your body. So that's one way of meeting incomplete needs. Releasing the trapped impulses is allowing yourself to become big or strong, make yourself feel safe, and then imagine doing or saying whatever you wanted. So those are some of the things. I mean, some people think, oh, well, that's just like a mental exercise, but it's actually so much more than that because as you track the feeling in your body, and you give yourself full permission to do this work, your body actually thinks that's what happened instead. It carries a different cellular memory, and it very much renegotiates your childhood. They say it's never too late to have a happy childhood because you can just go back and change it and then track the feeling in your body, and your body carries that memory instead.
Wow. I mean, first of all, I would say that in your example, I would have to release the guilt of having bullied my brother
There's
a little bit. At one
Yeah.
point, he said to me, "Jillian, I think my childhood was just a reaction to you and your childhood."
Well, guilt is a big thing that a lot of people feel, like, so I'm glad you brought that up. But yeah, so that's like maybe there's something that you're carrying with you and you can come back from your current compassionate adult self, the most loving part of you, the part of you that's such a great mom, and you can go to that part of yourself that feels guilty and you can forgive her and track the feeling in your body, but you can also imagine going back and doing it differently. So you could imagine, like, what would it look like to not do that to my brother? What would I want to have done instead? And see what that would look like, and then track the feeling in your body. And then your body gets to feel like it got to do that instead. So so this can work from as simple as like stubbing your toe in the middle of the night on your bedpost, who hasn't
Like,
been there? And
reimagining, no
and then
stuff.
you just, like, say, "Okay, I'm gonna imagine there's a big pillow around my toe, and there was this giant pillow between me and the bedpost," and it helps to relieve some of the shock and trauma. So, you instantly start to change things, like, so when my kids will get hurt, I'll be like, I'll give them a kiss, but then I'm like, "Okay, imagine there was a pillow there, track the feeling in your body," and now they're to the point they're like, "Alright, mom." But you can renegotiate it so your body starts to
Huh?
release some of that shock, and it eases it, it softens it.
It's so interesting. You just encapsulated it so well with the body follows the mind. I think, in coming, we were just talking about before the call, we've known each other 25, 26, 27 years now, some, from before, from 2000, 2001. So you've seen me kind of enter this world of Western medicine and you have kind of stayed in this Ayurvedic world. But one thing I'll say in Western medicine that's always so apparent to me is how we think the mind tracks the body or follows the body. We think of the body as primary and the mind as secondary, and it's totally the reverse. And so I think part of the reason we have so many mental health conditions in this country is because we think we prioritize the body, how we look. What is my jawline? Am I bikini ready? Like, nobody thinks about, is their mind bikini ready for summer? Everybody thinks about, is their body bikini ready? And I keep seeing all these memes about, like, people are so worried about what they look like, but really, you really need to worry about your personality.
That is so true. That is so true, you nailed it. Yeah, like, heartful communication is so much more important in avoiding trauma. Learning how to communicate with one another in a heartful,
Yeah.
kind, compassionate way, like nonviolent communication. Yes, you're completely right. That is such a good point.
Well, I'm just making the point you made.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I see it in a whole different way. Yeah, there's this whole study called heartful communication, which is nonviolent communication, and the Heartfulness Institute has kind of put their own, magic with it, but it's the principles of nonviolent communication, and it's so important because you're right, like, even with parenting, to avoid trauma, like, can we really be there for one another? Can we really listen to one another? And especially in this climate, that's
Yeah.
very polarized. Can
Yes.
we not be violent in our communication?
Yeah. And can we, so much of that violence I feel like comes from we are upset with ourselves in a lot of way, or we are scared for ourselves. Like, it is a very referential fear that I think often leads to violence. So there's that saying, like, the child who can't find their way into the village will burn it down if they can't find connection, will grow up to burn it down. And so if they can't find connection, and I think we're seeing a lot of that in our public spaces. And you did mention heartfulness, like heartful communication. Can you talk a little bit, so this podcast, just if you're listening, is gonna be like a whole wide-ranging It's like a collage about parenting and trauma. So here we are, how do we trauma really is there's so much, violence happen we experience violence at some level. What do we do with that violence? How do we either resolve it within ourselves and kind of come to peace, we dissipate it, or how do we perpetuate it because it was done to us? And so, we feel like our kids need to understand how hard it can be, and so we make it hard for them first to kind of help them learn how preemptive are we with that?
Yeah, so I'm super honored and delighted to have been doing heartfulness for since 1994, and it's a big part of my life. So it's actually what guided me to do Ayurveda because I got really clear inside myself that this is what I wanted to do. So it is a simple practice on the heart. So we're meditating on the source of light in the heart and we're letting our attention rest on the heart. And when we find we're having other thoughts, which, it's the nature of the mind to produce thoughts, but when we realize we're having them, we just gently bring our mind back to the heart. And every time we do that, we're strengthening our mental muscle more and more to think on one thing. And then what happens, we do this evening cleaning practice where we imagine everything leaving out the back like smoke or vapor, emptying out our hearts, and then the source of light's coming in from the front, filling up the vacuum that's been created. That evening cleaning practice is so crucial to declutter our minds, defrag our hard drives. Like you said, Jillian, we do so much for our bodies. We're in the profession of helping people with their bodies. But as you said, the mind is such a critical piece of that. So if we can do what we can do to purify our minds the way we do for our bodies, we're going to be golden. So that cleaning technique, it helps improve the quality of your sleep. It improves the efficiency of your sleep. You're going to feel more rested when you wake up. You're not going to have to work as much stuff out in your sleep. And you just feel clearer. Your mind starts to function easier. You're able to concentrate easier. You're just not feeling quite as fragmented. So I find it to be like if I had to not do anything else, like, if I had to throw out all my herbs and, if I could only pick one thing, you know how Dr. Laud would say, "If I could only pick one thing." For
Huh?
me, it would be this practice because it makes such a big difference in my mental state.
Every night?
So the cleaning, right, every evening, it's a great thing to do when you come home from work, and if I'm not able to do it right away, then I'll try to at least do some before I go to bed at night. But in the morning, I like to do it because it sets the tone for the day, and again, even if I can't do the full hour, even if I can do a little bit, it just sets the tone for the whole day. And what I love about it is you get so much support in the practice. There's trainers in 160 countries around the world, and it's all free. So it's a
Mhm.
nonprofit organization and all of these people are volunteers. And so they're just, we're an associate NGO of the United Nations sharing a similar mission of promoting peace and harmony. And so that's my volunteer service
Mhm.
sector of my life, I guess you could say. So I'm one of 25 trainers here in Dayton. But yes, it's amazing. It's all offered free of charge, which, that's kind of people are suspicious of that. They're like, well, nothing's free, but this truly is free. And the spaces themselves are just supported by donations, but there's never any pressure to do that. So yeah, there's even an app, a heartfulness app that's free, and you can log on with a trainer logged on from around the world anytime, 24/7. So you can have like a meditation trainer that's kind of like your personal trainer in a way. You can just do it through the app even. And it's all free.
That's amazing.
That's amazing, right?
It is amazing.
Yeah, because our teacher says, spirituality can't be sold. It's like the sky. It's there for
Exactly.
everyone. And all the volunteers are able to do it for free because they do other things for income.
Yeah. So, I mean, my experience with Heartfulness has been that people have enough. It's a really nice community because people in it have enough resource to then have spaciousness around the mind. It's not a community where people are brought together by being riled up or united by like anger at a common thing. It's sort of a really sweet invitation.
Yeah, I think it's great too because you've been able to experience it firsthand in your office, and I think it's great that you feel that way too. Yeah, and they have a great community there in Seattle.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. Yeah. And so do you because this is about parenting, we'll kind of go back. Do you teach your kids this? Have you taught your kids heartfulness? Like what do you teach kids meditation?
Yeah, so what I do with them is the relaxation technique, the heartfulness relaxation technique, which is basically just a progressive relaxation technique from the feet on up.
Mhm.
And then we kinda end in the heart. And so my son would have nightmares when he was little, and so I just start at that point is when I started doing the relaxation technique with him before
Mhm.
bed to help him with the nightmares, and it worked. He stopped having nightmares, and he started sleeping better, and I still do it with my daughter. My son doesn't want me to tuck him in anymore, he's 15. He kicked me out 6th grade, "Mom, I'm too old for the tuck-in." I said, "Okay." But my my daughter still wants me to do that. So, I still do the relaxation technique with her every night before bed.
Mm.
So, under 15, they recommend, just doing it for 5 minutes or so. From 15 on, they can do the whole practice. They can sit for longer without feeling bored. So now my 15-year-old, he will meditate. So there was a time at which every morning before school, we would meditate together for like 5 or 10 minutes. Their schedules changed a bit this year, and he hasn't felt the call to meditate in the morning as much like he used to, but there was
Mhm.
like last school year, I think it was. We were doing it every morning. He
So
would
great.
rather sleep. But, he asked me. I didn't ask him. He said, "Mom, I wanna start meditating."
Oh my
So then
god,
we started
amazing.
we started doing it for a few minutes in the morning. So, you don't realize it, but your example does. You don't realize, how much difference it's making. I never expected my son to ask me to meditate, but,
Mhm.
I think he sees that you meditate, and he sees that
Yeah.
me and my husband, and then he's, curious about it.
And so if folks were interested in learning more or in working with their kids in meditation, where would they find out more information?
So they can go to heartfulness.org. It's with one L,
Mhm.
heartfulness.org, or they can download the Heartfulness app, and it's free. Um, it's a really great resource. And they have programs for schools as well, actually. They have a social emotional learning, like a whole curriculum to
Mm,
help in schools, and that's the Heartful Schools program. But yeah, they have a lot for kids, and it has been really helpful for me, my family. Um, yeah, I really value it a lot.
amazing.
Well,
And can you talk a little bit about the Brighter Minds program, what that is, or how people would find out more about that?
yeah, so the Brighter Minds is the for-profit arm of Heartfulness, and that's kind of a newer thing, for many years because this organization was founded in 1945. So Brighter Minds is just within the last few years, and that they do charge for that portion. It's a whole. I'll go over that with you, and then a portion of it goes to Heartfulness to support some of the free programs. But Brighter Minds is fascinating to me because it's working with the midbrain. It's helping. It's a set of exercises that children can do from 5 to 15-year-old. It includes brain gym, eye exercises, breathing exercises, and then listening to this alpha wave music. And this whole program is designed to enhance their intuitive capacity and start enhancing their other senses so that
Mm,
eventually they can even read blindfolded. They're able to sense the difference in colors without their eyes. So it's starting to access because they have so much neuroplasticity at that age
mm, yeah, they
between
do.
5 to 15, and so that's taking advantage of that neuroplasticity and helping them use more of their brain, and
Mm,
once those neural pathways are formed, it's there forever. So it's, really one of the best gifts we can give our children is
mm.
to do that Brighter Minds program and really take advantage of that neuroplasticity. So, with my daughter, what I noticed is, she's not like the Brighter Minds rock star that can read blindfolded and all that, and maybe because we didn't do a ton of practicing, and she was also really young when she did the program, like 5 or 6, but what I noticed with her ever since then is she's very intuitive. Like, when we would play the memory card game, she would scan the cards, to
Mhm,
try to get the right ones, and so what I love about it is that she understands the value of intuition and, that there's more to this world than just your logical reasoning mind. There's
mhm,
also that intuitive side that can make us good healers and clinicians, because everything is an art, even though medicine is a science, there's also an art to it.
mhm,
And that role of intuition is huge. So she's starting to, she really values that sense of intuition, and it's really good for cognitive and academic achievement. So she's in the gifted program, and it's helped her, with that as well. But I personally value that she really values intuition. I think that's a huge gift.
It's really fascinating because Tobin switched or my son's I shouldn't say his name, but my son switched schools this year and is now going to a Waldorf school out of the Seattle public school system. The classrooms were so big. And so we're looking for something smaller. And one of the things that they really talk about is how the difference between being a producer and a consumer, and how in our culture, and I've heard this also from Stephen Bezruchka, who's a public health MD. He was an emergency room physician for a long time, and now he does a lot on what he calls the health Olympics, who's doing the best, who's getting the best outcomes for the least amount of inputs. And the US is really like at the bottom of the barrel. Like our maternal mortality rates are high, our mortality, like our life expectancy is actually very low as compared to many other developed nations. We spend a lot more money and get a lot more, we're just sicker than other countries. But one of the things he talks about is that there was a Newsweek article in like 1972 or something like that. And it was saying, it was highlighting the role of that it was highlighting the mission that somehow we had to convince Americans that their value lie in or laid in being consumers. And so, if we wanted the economy to keep growing, we had to convince people that shopping, like retail therapy, shopping was going to make them happy, having things was going to make them happy, and that's how we were going to really boost our economy. Because the truth is like if you really relied on community, there's not, if you were farming or trading or bartering or growing your own food or doing sharing skill sets, doesn't have necessarily a lot to do with money. But if we train children that they are consumers, if we train children in schools to just sit and receive information versus really trusting themselves, anchoring down, finding that intuition and producing information, then that's how we continue to grow a capitalist economy. And so, in some ways, meditation is kind of the antidote for a lot of the isolation that we feel. And I think a lot of the violence that we commit, and it's not just meditation, it's exactly what you're talking about. It's the sense of connecting internally. That's a lot of what meditation is. People forget that word yoga it comes from the same root as to yoke. So we are linking the body and the mind. If we are linking the body and the mind together, then we can, feel and see and understand things. If we are linking our mind, our frontal lobe to other frontal lobes, then that connection is something that really can feed us.
That is so well said, Jillian. So true.
But it's just like I see you talking about your daughter, and I'm like, that is the antidote for kind of this isolation and for this loneliness epidemic. We have to stop thinking about, I'm fascinated with this incel culture. And do you know this incel culture of this involuntary celibates? I'm really fascinated by it. And because I think like, how could that be? How could it get so uncomfortable? And what's interesting is that along with the misogyny and the violence towards women, there's also a real obsession with like jaw lines. Like if I just had a better jawline, I would be like women would want me or something.
It's insane. Yeah, what is that? That's so odd. I anyway,
Sorry,
everything
it's
you
really
said.
taken a turn.
Yeah, sorry. Everything you said is totally right on. But you're right. Like, we keep thinking that what we want is out here. We think
Yeah,
it's outside of us when everything we need is inside of us.
yeah.
And the whole universe is inside there. Like, as the microcosm, so the macrocosm, like with the power of meditation and how I was saying, sometimes we don't realize the power our example sets. Even if they didn't see us meditating, this is what I find fascinating. So if you have 9 guitars in a room and one guitar, you strum the chord of one guitar, all the other 8 start to vibrate on that chord through the
Yes.
principle of resonance. So
Yes.
even as we do our own meditation, even if our kids never let's say we did it in secret, we secretly meditated.
Like under a blanket in the living
Yeah.
room?
Like I've been known to go into my master bedroom closet to meditate because it was the only quiet place I could find in my home. I feel like because the cat took over my meditation room, I didn't wanna sit there and listen to him lick his parts the entire hour or whatever. It's like, "All right, I'm gonna go into my master bedroom closet and close the door because no one will bother me there, and I can hide from my kids, they may not know I'm there." If I know they're safe and
Of course, of
you know what
course.
I mean? So, yes. So let's just say going back to the secret meditation practice, when we meditate, we end up affecting our entire family because we're starting to vibrate now at that resonance, and we end up affecting our community. And the last talk I heard my spiritual teacher say in our heartfulness lineage, Tariji, he was the one I started under for like 20 years. And when he passed away in 2014, there's a new successor now, Daji, who I also adore. He's the head of the heartfulness system. But Chariji was my first teacher. And the last talk I heard him say in person, it was profound. And he said, when we meditate, we not only affect ourselves, our community, and our world, but we affect other worlds. A little bit too much for this podcast, but it kind of blew my mind because he said the other worlds, they don't have a direct connection to the source like we do here on Earth, apparently. Anyways, that might be a bit much, but I thought it was pretty profound. So we have no idea how much meditation is affecting us, not just here, but it could be potentially affecting other worlds that we're not even aware of and helping that positive vibration go out into the universe.
And when we talk about other worlds, there's so many layers to that. I mean, I even think the ripples through time. When we talk about other worlds, we could even be talking about children that are yet unborn who will come into this world because the work that we do now will also ripple through time.
So true.
And then
This
I keep, my and then I the largest living organism. Do you know what the largest living organism is in I think the world? Maybe it's the United States. Do you know what it is?
I'm not sure.
There's a mycelium network of mushrooms that is in somewhere in Oregon, and it's like between 2 and 3 miles wide, like between 2 and 3 miles, like, long or across or however it goes. And so it is an organism that communicates, the way that our vascular system communicates in our bodies, this mycelium network communicates. And so we are, there's that's what Keisha Ewer says, is we are the microbiome of the planet. Like, humans are part of the microbiome of the planet.
And we are connected that way. I mean, there's so many times when you're thinking about somebody and then they'll reach out to you and like we are connected. We are so connected and we don't even realize that we're connected.
Yeah, because the mind is the primacy. That's why we named the practice Neuroveda Health, is because the nervous system, that those structures and that function of perception, processing, and behavior, cellular, metabolic, as well as like what you do with your body. You pull your hand away from the stove. We know that those sort of reflexes often don't involve the brain. They go to the spinal cord and their reflexes. So our nervous system really is, we are kind of like an embodied nervous system.
100%. And that's really why I love meditation so much is because you're resetting the default of your nervous system.
Yes.
So most people are operating like under stress and they'll
Yeah.
have occasional moments of relaxation with massage or, I don't know, maybe taking a vacation or something. But with, like, regular meditation, it's like you're regularly training your nervous system on what it's like to feel relaxed so that you
Yes.
can have the occasional moments of stress or but you're able to quickly come back to that default and you have that resiliency. It's like regularly training your nervous system,
Yes.
reminding it, like, "Oh, this is what it's like to feel truly rested and relaxed."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That
And
is
that
so
and that
it's so important.
Yeah, and then that in turn helps us communicate more heartfully, less violently, and create less trauma. So be better.
And yeah, but like both from and to our children.
Yeah, but for our own inner children, because we all have our inner child that, needs parented too, and to our children outside of us. So both the inner children inside and the outer children outside.
Because if we can listen and hear them, and if our perception is not colored by our own trauma, then we can be more appropriately responsive to them.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And of
Yeah.
course, no, nobody's perfect. We are probably
Yeah.
somewhat inflicting trauma on our own children without even realizing it, or maybe realizing it, but not sure what to do about it.
And there are times where I think we joke about it a little bit. I say, "Oh, you can work that out in therapy when
That's
later."
right. That's right. And the first child's always the experiment child because you don't
Yes.
really know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You have it a little bit figured out better the second time around anyway. That's what I
Yeah.
feel. I'm sure those that have 3 and 4 really got it down.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it's fun to work in those Ayurvedic principles with the kids too, just in small ways. My daughter is more kapha, so she can get congested super easy. So
Mhm.
just, having her avoid dairy
Mhm.
and That's been a big one, and it's made a big difference, like, she didn't really have a lot of those ear infections and all that mucus production that, babies can have so much with all the dairy. Just little things, like, my son was wanting to have some yogurt last night, and I was like, "Well, it would be better if you could have it in the morning because at night it causes more congestion, but it's up to you." And he was like, "Oh, well, no, I'm not gonna have it now. I don't wanna be congested." So he
Mhm.
put it away and he was gonna have it in the morning. These little Ayurvedic things, like, they're helpful. They're
Yeah.
helpful because it does help. Because when they don't, when you live against those principles, you just suffer more.
Yeah. 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 And so what are the ways that can you talk a little bit more about Ayurvedic parenting? Like what happens if you know that you have more pitta in your constitution and so does your child and so suddenly you're yelling, you find each other yelling at each other a lot. Like what do you do? Or think about how would you advise parents to understand their own constitution and their kids?
I'm still in it, right? Like, maybe if I was a grandparent, I would give you even better answer to this question. But, like, I can see it with my own children. Like, my son is definitely more Pitta predominant, and he
Mhm.
he just, oh my god, is so competitive and will get on his little sister, like, so critical. And she's more Kapha, and she's just not, I don't know, it's just so it's a challenge. It's a challenge. Watching them 2 go at it is always a challenge, no matter how much I'm meditating in the home. It's still there, but it's helpful to know that, okay, if I can give my son more pitta reducing foods, maybe he can soften some of that pitta edge and not be so hard on his sister. So what we've been doing actually that's been really helpful that I think anybody could do even if they don't know Ayurveda is a gratitude practice at night. So we
Mm,
do this blessings practice where we'll get together and say 3 things that we're grateful for. And
mm,
it's actually been really nice because sometimes we're not always able to eat dinner together because of our schedules or whatever. So at night, at least, we'll try to do this. And, it's not always every night, but most nights we try to do it where each of us will go around and say the 3 things we're grateful for that from that day.
mm,
And it's been really helpful because first of all, we get to hear about the cool parts of their day,
mhm.
but it also keeps reminding us of what went right. Even on the days where I can think of one day my son just had a horrible day, and he really struggled to come up with 3 things that he was grateful for that day,
Uh-huh.
but he did it. But he did it, and so for him to, like for us all to have to think about those things, even if we're, one of our family members is struggling or in the hospital or something major is going on in our lives, to still try to think of what we're grateful for,
Mhm.
has been it's been a huge shift, and I think it's been a really great practice that's really helped us.
That's great.
Mm.
That's great. I can absolutely see there's so much I mean, when you're grateful for something, when you're able to name it, it really puts you back in the driver's seat of your experience. I think as opposed to like bad things like befalling you and kind of being a victim or feeling powerless, when you talk about what you're grateful for, it's a decision that you make about how you feel about something. And again, it's going back to that intuition piece. So what a great practice for a family.
Yeah, it's been really helpful.
That's fantastic.
That's a good point that you made, Jillian, yes.
Can you tell us about some of the other I'm just imagining, um, patients that I've worked with and kind of, some people's lives have been very, very hard. And so, how does that not, trying to think about how to not have that color every day of your life with your kids. If you were raised with so much pain or distress or abuse or neglect. And so, I'm curious about some of the other ways that you might advise parents to address their own material. We talked about the somatic, what's it called? Somatic trauma
Trauma resolution.
resolution. And if somebody was looking for that therapy, would they just search like somatic trauma resolution near them?
Yeah, they could search that or somatic experiencing. On my website, I have a video. It's just a short 15-minute video
Mhm.
where they can kind of go through some of the exercises and they can pause it. Just a few of these little exercises, and it might be helpful. It's midwestayurveda.com, but on there, they can it's just like a little introduction. But yeah, absolutely. Like, I do a lot of remote clients too from all over, so I'd be
Mhm.
happy to work with them, but they could find somebody near them if they wanna do in-person somatic experiencing or somatic trauma
And you
resolution.
do this remotely. You can do this telehealth.
I do it remotely. It's works really well remotely because, it's tracking sensation. I don't have to touch them. And even the Ayurvedic pulse assessment, I've learned I can do remotely. with good results, which I had no idea until the pandemic. And then I started doing it right before the pandemic shut down. I started experimenting with my in-person clients where I would feel it remotely on me and then feel it on them and it was matching and I would feel my own pulse and it would be different.
Mhm.
So, like, then I started doing it throughout the pandemic, feeling pulses remotely, and I could feel vata in the liver in one and kapha in the liver in the next person that I would see, and it was all through my own pulse. It's really all intention. It's
Mhm.
completely intention. So, like, I can even do lymph drainage remotely, and I that floored me. So, once I started doing pulse assessment remotely, I'm like, "Well, what else can I do remotely?" So, I started experimenting, and I did lymph drainage remotely, and I was flabbergasted because I just imagined the person on my table, like, they were on the phone while I was doing it,
Mhm.
and I would start to move their lymph, and they could feel it as if they were on my table.
Wow.
And I was
Good
like,
for the
"Oh my."
the mind.
It totally does, and it's all intention. It is all intention. I mean,
Amazing.
the book, Messages from Water, where they talk about how the intention changes the molecular structure of the water, and even bacteria resistant I'm sorry, polluted water got more bacteria resistant with the intention placed over it.
Yes.
All intention, like everything. And we're
Yeah.
so much of our bodies is water.
Yes.
Thoughts that we have
Yeah.
makes such a difference in our bodies as well. But in terms of what advice for those parents that have gone through a lot, I definitely would try to get as much help as they can for to repair their own wounds. But a lot of times people end up doing it in their life. So like let's say they had neglect, they'll end up doing the opposite for their children because they don't want to have their kid go through what they went through.
Yeah.
So a lot of times they'll end up doing it naturally anyway.
Yeah.
So and then, doing as much like people that, our inner child that may need whatever it needs, like maybe it never got to go to the park or have an ice cream cone or whatever. So you
Mhm.
can imagine when you go to the park and you get your ice cream cone that you're doing it with your inner child. And
Yeah.
so you're kind of bridging that gap between the inner and the outer. But yeah, there is a lot of suffering in this world, no doubt. And there's a lot of mistreatment of children, but it can be repaired. All hope is not lost. My
Mhm.
biggest advice to them would be don't lose hope. Everything can be repaired.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nature is very generous. You can go 1,000 days without eating and eat one meal and feel full. So nature is very generous. And anything is always possible. The body's always repairing itself. The mind is the same way. The
Mhm.
mental, emotional body.
Mhm.
I think we're miracles. We're walking miracles.
We are walking miracles. That's a great way to say it, and it is true. You go 1,000 days without eating and you eat 1 meal and you're full. You don't need to eat 1,000 meals to, like, fill the backlog. You need to get over the feeling that you had of loss or of fear or of, like, inaccessibility to resources, but then 1 meal will fill you up, and it's always been crazy to me, like, how could that be satisfying enough? But that's what you were exactly right. Our system is always in the
Yeah. You're right. Nature is generous. And like you said, it'll take time for your body to feel safe, to feel like, yes, it can have the food it needs when it needs it. And it
Yeah,
takes time for your nervous system to settle, of course.
yeah,
But nature is very generous. It
yeah,
doesn't, it's not going to take you 1,000 years maybe to feel safe. Like it's not reciprocal. It's not like the exact amount of days that you went without is going to take you that many days to repair necessarily.
yeah, yeah,
The body's always wanting to repair itself, so it'll work with you,
yeah,
especially if your mind is on board in that direction, then you've got, like, double the impact.
yeah. Amazing. Is there a right way to do things? Is there one right way to do anything? Parenting, meditation?
Yes, of course. No, I'm teasing. Of course not. That's my way. It's
I
the
might
best
have
way.
my way.
No, that's the beauty of Ayurveda, is that there is no one right way that's good for anybody. I mean,
Mhm.
that's what's so beautiful about Ayurveda is that it recognizes each and every person is unique, just as perfect and unique as a snowflake, and no two are alike.
Yeah,
So, yeah, there's not gonna be one right way of parenting and, or one right way of being or living or I think as parents, most of us just wing it, right? We just wing it. We just do the best we can in the moment, given the resources that we have in that moment. Oh, and some days we're tired and are not gonna be as calm as other days. So,
yep,
yeah, I think we're all just doing the best we can in the given moment.
yeah.
Mhm.
Very true. And I think learning Ayurveda is, Ayurveda really is a pattern recognition system. And so the patterns, when we talk about what is vata, what is a dosha, it really is a pattern. And so if we can, and this is not a show where we can go through like what is vata, what is pitta, what is kapha, and what, how we all work together and the ins and outs in relationships. We have other shows and there's other materials to access to figure out like what is your dosha, what is your prakriti, your mix, your constitution, where are you now, what are your kids, and then how do you take good care of them according to Ayurveda.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah, it's profound. And the kids are a result of, the parents' prakriti, their constitution. In that moment when they're conceived, the children's prakriti is kind of built that way. And it's
mhm,
also affected by what season they were conceived in, what season they were born in. And that's kind of how their prakriti gets formed, their constitution. But yeah, I love, you and I have share that love of Ayurveda. I love it because it helped me understand myself better and it
mhm,
helped me understand other people better. And it made me compare myself less. You know how you're growing up and you're like, gosh, why can't I be more like this person? And they seem to have it all figured out. And I still like, get mad really easily, because I am pitta predominant. And I'm like, this person just doesn't seem like that. And they talk really slowly and they just do things more systematically. Like, why
mhm.
can't I be more like them? But they're more kapha. And,
Yep.
and so I guess the beauty of it was that what it helped me with was not feeling like I needed to be like someone else, not feeling like I should be a different way or should be this way or should be that way. Like it taught me to accept myself and understand my own strengths and weaknesses. And I help understand other people's. So I'm not quite as judgmental about them as well when I can look around the room and be like, oh, that's just their pitta. Their pitta's
Mhm.
just going out of control.
So just stand back, out of
Yeah,
the way.
yeah. Especially in college. I don't know. I remember being like, "Oh, yeah, that really pitta." But it was really helpful to know Ayurveda.
Yeah, it's so helpful. I mean, when I used to have Outward Bound students that were very Pitta, and they were so argumentative, and for a long time, it was, my Pitta would take it very personally. "If you
Mm,
wanna go, I'll go. I'll go all day long. Let's go. Let's
yeah.
argue." But then I just learned it was their Pitta, and I thought, "Well, then just, I'll either" you just satiate it however you do. You answer all the why questions, or you say, "Meh," but you can just let it go because it's not really about you.
That's a challenging situation. So how do you handle that with all those people attacking like that person just going at you? Do you just, like, give them short answers and move on?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that it's interesting because what was hard for me was kind of the flame that I would feel within, like, it would really fire me up. And I would be so my answers were not just answering them, I was answering that larger question of, like, "Why are you questioning me?" And so then it was either I had to prove myself or I had to defend myself, and that was really the problem. The problem is not somebody saying, like, "Well, why? Well, why? Well, why?" And so I was then able to just answer the question and kinda move on. Or I was able to see that the Pitta mind has to know who their teacher is and feel like their teacher is smart. And so when I talk to a lot of Pitta patients, I'll use bigger words because that's what makes them feel more comfortable, like I somehow am a greater authority. And then with Vata patients, when patients are so like tender, sweet, I use like not necessarily smaller words, but I speak more slowly or I'm more gentle or I use smaller words that you don't have to learn as much. It's not as much activity. So that for these chronic fatigue patients, they kind of can still understand what I'm saying.
My god, Jillian, that's beautiful. I love that.
That's what makes it so fun. I mean, I had a patient yesterday who came in for autonomic testing. I had never met her before. And so we're testing her autonomic nervous system, her fight or flight, her sympathetic versus her parasympathetic nervous system. And we have an autonomic lab and we do this series of tests. And she like so clearly had POTS. Like it was so obvious, and she really didn't know what POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, is. We're really seeing it a lot post COVID. It's very common in long COVID, but she just really hadn't been seen by anybody who was really long COVID savvy. And so I got really excited because sometimes the testing is like borderline, or sometimes it doesn't fit a particular pattern. And then I have to really think about what is the meaning of this, especially for a person I don't know very well. But with her pattern was so clear, like, her heart rate was so high on tilt up, and so I was able to say to her, "Oh my god, I'm really excited. This is a really easy diagnosis." And she and her mom and her partner were there, and they were all laughing at me. They were like, "Well, we're glad you love your job." I was like, "Look, here it is."
This is bookcase. Yeah, that's awesome. I
So
love
and so just trying to figure out how do you angle information so it can actually be digestible, and that's part of the fun of being a doctor. I don't want people to be sick, but I mean, this too. I'm sure you do this with patients and clients and talking to them about what their healthcare is. You have to kind of like move it around however they're going to understand it.
so true. You have to meet them where they're at.
Yeah,
And
if they're
where they
overwhelmed or if they're underwhelmed, it's not going to be, you have to find the right amount to the best of your ability.
so true. Yeah, one of the things I love about practicing Ayurveda is the pulse assessment and the asking the organs questions. That's
Ooh.
like my favorite thing because there's 12 different organ pulses, right? And so initially I just started feeling the health of the organs and then seeing what the imbalance was, whether it was vata, pitta, kapha, and then using my mind to try to come up with the right solution for them, right? But
Mm-hmm.
then somewhere along the line while I was practicing, as I'm sitting with the pulse and I'm noticing vata in the liver, which is like dryness, I'd be like, I wonder if they need more water. And all of a sudden, like the pulse would start getting strong. And I'm like, oh my God. Like it shifted. And so then like I started realizing that I could ask the pulse questions and until I got the right answer, it won't shift. So I could ask it like if somebody has kapha in the heart pulse, the physical heart, not the emotional heart, because there's two
Mm-hmm.
different pulses for that. So in the physical heart, I would feel kapha in the heart pulse, which could indicate high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or just lower heart function. So it may not be like a clinical diagnosis. And I'll be like, I wonder if they need more cardio. And then the pulse would start getting strong. But sometimes I'll say, do you want more cardio? Doesn't respond. Do you want a plant based diet? And it gets really strong. Then I can start going a step further and saying, well, do you want it 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, 4 days a week? And I'll say however many days until it gets strong. And then I know exactly how many days a week it wants plant based diet. And it's so fascinating. I can use it for herbs. Like, do you want this herb? Nope, that herb. And when I get the right herb, it gets strong. I can use it for dosage. So then I can really customize things for that person, like to a T. And it's
Mm-hmm.
been so much fun and it's working.
And people are getting better.
People are getting better and they're feeling heard on a really deep level because I'm listening to their organs. The
Mhm.
body is always trying to communicate to us. It's
Yes,
always trying to tell us what it wants.
yes.
Whether it's through that own person's intuition or a feeling that they have, or, when I'm doing lymph drainage, the lymph will move in the direction it wants to go. It may be in the wrong direction, but you
Mhm.
follow it in the wrong direction as far as it
Mhm.
can go, and then it'll immediately correct itself. So the body's always trying to heal. It's designed to heal.
Yeah.
Just once it feels heard and listened to, it's miraculous what it'll do.
Mhm. We gotta get out of the way. We gotta get out of the way with our 8 best foods for high blood pressure, 8 best foods for, whatever, weight gain, 8 best foods for.
Right. Like we're always looking for the answers outside of ourselves.
Yep,
We forget it's all inside.
all inside.
And if we just ask, a lot of times it'll tell you what it needs.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's pretty fascinating because you can even stay with a part of the body, like if you're having pain, like in the somatic trauma resolution, the somatic experiencing work, right? Like you can just stay with pain and watch it, and the body will begin to heal and change and release on its own. It may want to travel in a particular direction, it may have a color, may have a texture. And as you stay with it, just watching it, not trying to fix it or change it, it will
Mhm,
begin to change and release on its own.
mhm,
And yeah, I just find that fascinating. So, like, you can stay with a part of the body, like the neck,
mhm,
if you're having neck pain, and a thought pattern can emerge on what's causing the neck pain.
mm,
Can I tell you a funny story about that?
mhm,
It's like a personal story. But like one time, for instance, I find this so fascinating. But the neck is about seeing different possibilities, right? About looking
mhm,
around and seeing different possibilities. So one morning I woke up and I literally this was many, many years ago, okay? But I literally could not lift my head up. Like I just woke up and I could not lift my head up. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm like in enforced humility right now. Like, I cannot look up. Nature is making me look down. So I was trying everything, Jillian. I was trying herbs, like potions and creams, and nothing was working. And I'm like, I do not know what is going on with my neck right now. And my dad, I was living with my parents at the time, and he was like, "Why don't you take some Vioxx? I have some Vioxx." I'm like, "I'm not gonna take your Vioxx. Like, I barely take Tylenol. Like, why?"
Yeah, that's a long time ago because that's been off the market for a long time.
Right. So it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So he was like, "Just take it. I think it might help you." And I'm like, "No, I'm not gonna take it." So, I had a lunch with right, because they've shown right, it's off the market because of some detrimental effects, right? So, anyways, at the time, it wasn't that way, and I had a lunch with my friend, and I went ahead and went even though I couldn't look up, telling her about the story. She's a science and consciousness major, like, she majored in physics and was all into science and consciousness, and I was like, "Yeah, I guess it really is all intention." So to appease my dad, I took his Vioxx and put it in my purse.
Uh-huh.
Just to, like, be like, "Okay, if I need it, I'll take it," because he was really, like, wanting to give it to
Uh-huh.
me.
Assistant.
So I told her, I'm like, "Well, really, it's just intention, so if I make the intention that this is filled with divine nectar and it's gonna heal every cell in my body, like, it should work," and she was like, "Yeah," and I was really closed off to allopathic medicine at that time, like,
Uh-huh.
I really just wanted to do everything naturally. I didn't wanna ever have to take anything that wasn't, like,
Mhm.
herbal or natural. Anyways, so I made the intention and I put that pill in my mouth before I could even swallow it, I was able to move my neck instantly, instantly, instantly! Like, I literally, like, instantly moved my neck up because I finally was not closed off to another form of medicine. I'd gotten
Ah,
so stuck,
God, it's so
so
interesting.
rigid in one way of thinking
Yeah.
that, like, it locked up my neck. It was fascinating. Yeah, so that was Vioxx.
Amazing.
Well, since then, my kids have taught me a lot about taking the middle path, you
Yeah.
know? Kids
Yeah.
do that. They really
Yeah, you
push your
really
ed
yeah.
push all the edges you have and teach you to grow. So, I tried to have home births, had to have C-sections,
Yep.
and I've really come to value, allopathic medicine and try to walk the middle road. So, I'll get vaccinations one at a time, but do homeopathic no-sodes afterwards so they don't have the toxic side effects, but they still get the efficacy of the vaccine,
Yep.
and try to space them out one at a time so that it's not too hard on the body to do so many at once.
Ye
So, parenting itself has been a big teacher for me and taught me a lot about how
Mhm.
to integrate these 2 sides, because allopathy is a part of Ayurveda. Surgery
Mhm.
is a part of Ayurvedic medicine in
Mhm.
India. Oh, yeah, it's been quite a journey for me to,
Mhm.
really integrate and not be so like, Pitta people can get those blinders on my way or the highway. Like fire can get laser focused, like
Yeah.
a laser beam, and then they just see one way and that's the only
Yep.
way.
Yeah.
So it's been quite a journey of like, okay,
Yep.
let's soften that pitta, see all the different ways and how we can all integrate together. We don't have to be one way or the other.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty amazing. I really feel like I use the Western, testing and therapeutics and insights, but I really feel like all of the principles are Ayurveda. Like Ayurveda has all the right ideas and a lot of the right treatments, but then here we have all these other treatments. And so,
Yeah, like in India, they're practiced side by side. So
yeah.
Ayurveda and allopathy are practiced together. So you can do Ayurvedic assessment and then use the Western tests to confirm the diagnosis. Here, it's not like that, except for you. You're doing it.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to do some of it and I feel like but again, it's just a huge toolbox that each of us carries. And it's really, I mean, I would just go back to what Dr. Ladd always taught all of us about the importance of entering the heart of the patient and listening. And then whatever toolbox you have, whatever tools you have in that toolbox, the hope is that you apply them according to that, that listening and that intuition. So, it depends on just kind of, I think, where you want to work. I wanted to work in Western medical settings. And so that's, my proudest moment of my entire career remains when I had a patient with cyclic vomiting syndrome who had been seeing me and also seeing GI at our local, one of our big local systems. And I looked at the GI's note, the gastroenterologist note, and it said something like, patient getting excellent benefit from Ayurvedic care program. And I was like, yes.
That's awesome. That is awesome. To see it in writing from a doctor is pretty
in a medical note by a gastroenterologist, like, just saying, like, "I got nothing to offer here. It's going really well. Ayurveda's working well." And he was a Pitta Kapha guy who we did a lot of Basti. We did a lot of Apana Vayu support. And so everything just, stopped moving up and out and started moving down and out. So,
That is
yeah, it was fun. It's fun.
yeah, I love it.
There's so much. Like, there's so much here. There's so much in like, life is such a treat. Like, I don't know how else to say it, but it's like, there's so much to learn and play and understand and experience.
And you came to experience it all.
Came to experience it all. Yep. With our minds and our intuition as embodied in our bodies. Like, it's not all about the body. Like, you want your mind to be bikini ready for summer.
Love that line.
The body follows the mind.
Probably put it in a different way, but I like the way you're going with that. You want your mind to be, like, source ready or what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not sure.
Well, I just think about, like, am I ready to I mean, when
To shine.
well, yeah, and just to be, like, exposed and to be out there and to because when you're it's also, like, a big change when you go from, like, big coats to I mean, the experience of, like, the first time you put a T-shirt on in the spring. I mean, you know this in Ohio, when you first put on a T-shirt, it's kinda like your skin is, like, for light and for wind, it feels different. You're used to being all, cuddled up in a sweater or a long sleeve or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden, like, your shoulders are exposed to light, like, is your it's a different sensation entirely that has nothing to do with, like, whatever the modern styles are.
Interesting. So, I'm curious what you mean then when you say, "Let your mind be bikini ready." Like, what does that mean to you?
I mean, to me, it means just like, are you ready for this seasonal shift? Are you ready to like feel more exposed? Are you ready to kind of like be embodied in this other way?
And are your doshas feeling balanced to do it, to go through that seasonal shift?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it's
that
also like, it's not just your body that's getting out there on the beach or getting into a bathing suit. It's your mind that's getting into a bathing suit. So, what do you need to do for your mind to get into a bathing suit?
you know, on that note, the best line I've heard, this was again from my spiritual teacher. I'd
Mhm.
seen him after many years. I went to India to see him, and he had lost a lot of weight. This is Chariji, and I saw him, and he was a big man,
Mhm.
and he had lost a lot of weight. And I
Mhm.
said, "Wow, master, because in India, you call your teacher master, like
Mhm.
schoolmaster." And
Mhm.
and I just said, "You've lost a lot of weight. You look really good." And he chuckles. He goes, "Well, a chocolate is a chocolate, whether it's thick or thin." Like, that is the best line ever. But it's a chocolate, whether it's thick or thin. I have thought of that line so many times ever since. You know,
Wow.
mind bikini ready, you can just say, "A chocolate is a chocolate,
Yes.
thick or thin."
Driven. So true. My goodness. Well, we have kind of come to the end of our discussion today. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to add?
I guess the only thing I wanna add that may be unrelated, but I feel really passionate about right
Oh,
now,
yes, you did. We mentioned this before. Okay.
is that when as parents, if we ever have to get braces for our children, just keep in mind that almost 1 in 5 people, like, at least 18% or more have a nickel allergy, including like 11 million children. And you may not be aware of it, but you can ask for nickel free braces because nickel in your mouth can create so many health problems. And I just saw it in a patient, a client that is in her 30s, has young children, got braces and for like a year in her mouth and was suffering, but maybe didn't really know why. But she's has like ALS now, it's not in her genetic history. She doesn't have the gene marker for it. She even got tested for that. And I think a lot of it had to do with nickel poisoning.
Mm,
So I just feel sad because they're putting heart valves into people with nickel. And,
mhm,
the dermatologist here locally was saying somebody got their valve replaced with nickel and is having so many problems.
mm,
And I guess the FDA hasn't ruled that out, like made it illegal. So I think we as consumers, patients, advocates, we need to be aware to
mhm,
ask for nickel free. Like, and if
mhm,
you're getting any kind of implant or valve replacement, ask for the material. Make sure it's not nickel, like, because you may have an allergy and you don't want to take that chance, or you can go get allergy tested. So if you're getting braces, go nickel free. That's what I'm feeling passionate about in the moment, and I just had to make sure I said that before we
I like that this is an entire podcast on meditation, parenting, trauma resolution, and nickel-free braces. Perfect. That's like you, Anjali, and Ayurveda, in a nutshell. Very
Yeah,
practical and very esoteric.
that's right. That's right. We'll
Yep.
pack it all in. That's how we live
Pack
our
it all
lives,
in.
right?
Yep.
Pack it
Yep.
all in.
So good.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for being here. And we love that you've joined us today at home to discuss how to make our whole world medicine. We rise or fall together and are committed to sharing knowledge and insight that empower us and our communities towards greater health. Thank you for listening to the Neuroveda podcast for complex health, and we'll see you next time.